Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. I'm welcoming myself back to this space. This message just felt too important to not share in a bigger on a bigger platform. But if you didn't see my most recent community post, I did share that I have been guided really strongly to share completely unfiltered all of the rush of downloads and understandings and insights and ahas that I'm receiving right now at this time about this journey, the spiritual journey, about the nature of our universe, about the twin flames, about consciousness, about our evolution, you name it. It's coming in hot and it's been an excessive. It's like I was in hermit mode. I was resting. I was enjoying connection and play and having fun. And the holiday season was so beautiful for me. And then now, it's like when you trust yourself, when you trust your cycles and you trust your seasons, and you don't pressure yourself and you don't rush yourself. It's like you're refreshed, and now all of a sudden I'm just, yes. So that being said, I'm sharing all of that in the beautiful Patreon community that I have created. There are so many beautiful, very, very divine masters and teachers in there. And the goal and the intention for this year with that community is to make it more of a kind of like a hangout space for people on these journeys, for people experiencing what they're experiencing and to connect. But currently, that is where I have been guided by spirit very strongly to share the downloads and the messages that I'm getting. Now, they've kind of hinted that there will come a time where I will share all of those insights and all those videos here. Um, so it's funny because as I say that, I have resistance to that because I'm just such a present moment person that like it's really hard to imagine myself going back to like in a couple months going back to those old videos and then like posting them on YouTube and going through the process of doing that. But if that's what they guide me to do, that's what they guide me to do. But more likely than not, I will be guided to start sharing here. So, but that being said, if you are really feeling like you want these messages and you feel guided and you feel like there's messages in there for you, definitely check out the Patreon. I am still, showing up as much as I can. I'm holding energetic space for this YouTube community, but I just go with the guidance. And I'm sure some of you are on that path now where you know what that feels like. You know when you're in your truth and your authenticity around that, and you just follow it and you just do it. And like it doesn't follow the model of what we've been told like a business should be or this should be, and it makes no sense. But somehow you are always resourced, you are always provided for, you are always good. And so I've watched my numbers accelerate when spirit wants me to share, and I watch them drop, and it's happened multiple times, and I've been surprised every single time, like, oh, maybe I'll never come back from this. And I always do. So, but that community is really where I give the most of myself and I show up the most. So if you're very guided to connecting with others on this journey and all of the downloads and information that I've been getting, it's like we were in a quiet kind of void darkness space for a while, and then all of a sudden it was like boom, 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 and it's just been nonstop. So I'm sharing that with you here in case you missed the community page, and definitely check that out. The seeker tier is all the extended readings, and I do have extended readings that'll be coming up soon. So I will be getting back into some tarot readings and doing the extendeds, and that's where the seeker lives. The seeker gets some bonus energy updates and things here and there when spirit guides me, but for the most part, that is just for extended readings. But the initiate tier, I do share readings. I do share all of the videos I'm talking about. And then the master tier is more the community tier, as well as highly sensitive content that I'm guided to have the share in a smaller group. So if you're interested in the community aspect, the master tier is going to be more what you're looking for. And I really foresee bringing in other experts and teachers like within the community. So if you're a healer yourself, if you are working a spiritual path or a spiritual business and you want to start sharing your message, that's definitely a community you might want to check out and be a part of, because I have a lot of ideas. They've been giving me a lot of ideas of what's to come, and I'm just waiting for the green light. So but that's just a little information on that. Today, however, I have a message that's very, very important, and they gave me the green light to share it here with you all. That being said, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate your love, and I appreciate the sense of safety I feel, even though this is a public space and this is YouTube. And I know YouTube can be really difficult for some people. Like there can be a lot of darkness on YouTube, but so I really appreciate those that have found me here, those that have been supportive, those that have been around for a long time. I haven't disappeared. I've just been guided to take the messages elsewhere for the time being. And when guided, I'll come back. And I know I've met a lot of you from TikTok. I haven't been on TikTok in so long. It's crazy. It's crazy. I never could have foreseen that the break that I was guided to take would have been this long. But again, when you flow, when you go with what you're guided to do, the guesswork kind of gets taken out and you don't have to be in your head about anything. You don't have to second guess. You don't have to question. You just flow. That being said, a really important message here today for us all. Okay, so we're talking about the concept of knowing, the internal knowing versus the energy of seeking. Now, everything that I say here, I want to be really clear. There is no good or bad. There is no right or wrong. Okay, it is all a part of the process. It's all an organic journey, and you will be at a certain place on the journey, and you have to trust and know that that is exactly where you are meant to be. So if you hear this and you're like, oh my goodness, I think I'm seeking, I don't think I'm in knowing, that's okay. Do you know how long I was seeking on this journey? Seeking in life, right? Seeking, trying to find the answers. It's only through seeking that we know that we can become a knower, that we can remember our knowing, because that's the thing. What we're here doing really is remembering. And we're really taught wrong. I know I said there's no good, bad, right, wrong, but we're really incorrectly nurtured and incorrectly guided, and that's no one's fault. So there's where there's no wrongness. There's no wrongness. No one needs to be forgiven. No one needs a slap on the wrist. It just is part of the evolution of being here, and that's part of the divine plan, right? It's all one. It's all good. So seeking energy, though, let's just go into that for a minute. Seeking energy. Oh my God, my spinny chair is spinning me. Okay, so seeking. I think we just went out of Mercury retrograde. I think if not today, tomorrow, and I can feel this like childlike like kind of giddiness from it. And if you don't notice, I am a little bit hoarse, and it's from having too much fun. So the giddy like childlike is coming out. I'm not sick or anything. I just enjoyed using my voice a little bit too much over the weekend. So anyways, the chair got me really distracted, but I'm going to get present again. Okay. So we're in this process right now. Let me just backtrack for a second. We're in this process right now of retracing our steps, relearning things that we maybe already learned, and we thought we'd embodied it, and we're like, okay, I'm good. I never have to go through that painful experience again. I never have to go through that part of the journey again. I'm good. I'm moving on. Let's go. Right? That's what the ego tells us. And the ego loves to check things off the list, right? It's so satisfying. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Enjoy that. Enjoy the process of checking something off your list. Man, does that feel good, right? Back when I used to make lists, oh, nothing like checking something off the list. It's like a hot cup of coffee in the morning and checking something off the list are like right there with like bliss for me, or they were. So we are going back and revisiting old things. And I'm mainly here talking about a deep ascension journey, which for most of you who have found me in this channel, it's going to be the ascension path through a twin flame journey. Okay. And I don't feel called right now or guided to go deep into the energetics of the twin flame journey, because I feel like you already know. And if you don't know, that's okay. Well, you do know, but if you haven't remembered yet, that's okay. You're in the process, and there still may be something you can gain from this message. So in this revisiting process, what we're realizing is when we healed that before, when we experienced that before, we were only able to go this deep. And now we're in a place where we're able to go deeper. And we're realizing, or at least the opportunity is there for us to realize it doesn't have to be so hard. It doesn't have to be so painful when I surrender. When I Move into the flow instead of resisting and fighting the flow. And it's as simple as giving yourself permission to feel what's coming up, what you're feeling, and allowing it. And this is what most of us got wrong in child rearing, in working with children. Like anybody, by the way, who tunes into me that works with children on a day-to-day basis, please listen to these teachings, because you have so much power to make the world a better place. It's imperative that you give, if you're a parent as well, that you give your child and the children around you permission to feel. Their emotions are not bad. Their emotions are not wrong. And if they are given permission to feel all of those emotions, those natural instinctive emotions, they learn how to become alchemists very early. They learn how to flow. They learn how to transmute. They will not be the kid in adulthood who rejects love. They will not be the kid in adulthood who seeks love that is not true. They will be solid within themselves. Okay. They will know how to receive and they will know how to give equally, because they've learned how to self-regulate that within themselves. And it starts with emotions. Please, please, God, please let them flow. And the other thing is when you've been given that permission, either you've retrained yourself in adulthood, or you just were really lucky and had amazing parents and amazing models around you where you gave yourself, you let yourself feel. And most of us, maybe our parents taught us how to feel love correctly, but they didn't teach us how to feel anger correctly, or vice versa, right? So there's, different iterations there. But when you are given that gift, that beautiful gift as a child, as an adult, you're able to move through things very quickly. And that circles back to my point on the retracing our steps right now on these journeys. So things that we thought we learned maybe 6 months ago, a year, 2 years, a month ago, we're revisiting it again, and we're seeing how much deeper we can now go because of the deconditioning and the remembering process that we've been in. So our bodies have gotten stronger, our minds, our hearts, we've really gotten a lot stronger. So now we're in this place that we can move and we can go even deeper because we're better resourced. Whereas we weren't as resourced maybe the first 3 times that we experienced that lesson. But now we're really able to get I'm just seeing we're digging deep into the earth. So we're going into the inner earth of ourselves, and we're being able to really, really look at the roots, really, really look at it. And without judgment, right? That's the biggest gift you can give yourself. It's not judgment. It's not good or bad. When you linger in guilt and doubt and self-hatred and many iterations of that might sound extreme to you. So maybe you're just a little bit upset with yourself, or, whatever it is. But when you linger in that, you stop the flow. You completely constrict the life force energy. You constrict your own divine God essence. You restrict it all. You stop it. You cut it off at the source, and you're not able to move forward. And then you're in stagnancy. And then you wonder why God is doing this to you, or why people around you are doing this to you, or why you have to suffer. Or maybe you kind of relish in the suffering and you kind of enjoy it, and you're like, ooh, I deserve this. And you kind of get off on it in a weird way. Honestly, trust me, I've been there, where you can kind of get off on your suffering. And then but you wonder why things aren't changing and why you're in the same position. Okay. And so you're constantly seeking, and you're constantly reaching, and you're asking all these questions, and you're not acknowledging that you are the answer. You are the answer. You hold the answers within you. You hold all the potentiality and all the remembering within you. All you need to do is get out of your own way. And do you know how you do that? I'm sure some of you that have been tuning in for a while know exactly what I'm going to say. But you get the fuck out of your head, right? You get out of your head. There was something I heard the other day. I loved it. And I wish I could cite where I heard it. It was a person, obviously. It was a human. I guess I shouldn't say obviously, because I could have, a dog could have telepathically given me this beautiful insight, and I would not put it past dogs to know this. Okay, here we go. Fear makes sense, but your gut does not. And your gut, fill in the blank, intuition, emotions, etc. So your fear is going to be, the other one I really like that I do work with clients is the fear is loud, Okay. Fear screams and your intuition whispers. Okay. But I love this that I heard recently where fear is going to logically make it all make sense. Like, let's give an example. Okay. I'm going to use a really funny 3D example that might make some of you giggle and might make some of you like roll your eyes, but whatever. Okay. And I don't watch this show, but I'm not above watching shows like this, but I'm just using this one. Okay. So like The Bachelor, right? Let's just take The Bachelor because I think we can all kind of understand what the premise is, right? So there's a single person, either a man or a woman, and they're looking for someone to marry, right? And they have all these contestants that come in, blah, blah, blah. And they drag it out however long. I don't know how long filming actually is, but the TV show is like a month or more. I don't know. I've never seen it. So you guys probably know. Whatever. See, the details are not important. And they get into their head when they're making these decisions. And so let's say they think they feel love for both, right? Let's say they're like trying to decide between two. Fear is going to make sense. So maybe one of them, they live in the same city. Maybe they know, like, they're similar to their life, right? They fit really easily. And maybe like on paper, they're like, oh yeah. And like that dream I have, that's a 3D dream, that's a material world dream, whatever, money, job, status, you name it, whatever. It all makes sense. It makes perfect logic sense. But the thing is there's a conflict. And in that conflict, it's the logic over the heart, over the intuition. So if you truly were aligned, and here, no good, bad, right, wrong. So here's what I'm trying to say. If that person was really aligned to that person that I just gave the example of, that's all these things on paper, then there wouldn't be a conflict. They wouldn't be trying to decide between that person who makes sense and this person who doesn't make sense. But they can't let them go. There's just this thing. They don't get it. And so there lies the conflict. It's because their higher self, their soul, is moving them to become more truly aligned. And the soul knows that all that stuff means nothing. Matters of the heart mean nothing to the mind. You can't connect the two. And most of us have been taught to choose through logic and through the mind. And I'm using love as an example here, but I'm sure you can see that we could be talking about your purpose in the world, your mission, what work you're supposed to do, what city you're supposed to live in, what friends you're supposed to have, etc. So if there's conflict, it's an evolution. You are moving through a soul evolution and you are working towards remembrance. And the only thing that can create stagnancy and keep you in a blocked place is when you go into that resistance and you block yourself off and you pretend not to know, when you always have the answers within you. And this, again, I'm going to connect back to seeking. Seeking is pretending not to know when you know. You are the only one, in fact, that knows. Yes, there are people that can help you. There are people that can help break it down for you. There are people that can help you, give you tools for you to communicate better with yourself, to open up to spirit energy, to open up to the divine energy, right? But only you know. So when we go into our head, all we're doing is pretending not to know. And this idea of it not making sense, it's usually because we're living out of alignment in some way. We're living in an untruth in some way in our lives. And to be honest with you, most people are. So give yourself a break for that. If you have been and you were, let yourself off the hook. You haven't done anything wrong. You've simply acclimated to the world you live in. Good for you. Survival of the fittest, right? Like, we've all been taught this. Might is right. So good job. Good job. You did it. You did it. Okay? Nothing's wrong with you. But your soul knows what you really want and knows why you're here. So your soul has orchestrated these conflicts, these potential conflicts, to help you along. And that's what the spiritual journey is all about. It's a wake-up call. It's a freaking wake-up call to meet the person that is your soul essence at the core, that is your soul song, as some people say, that is the truest form of you, that is the purest mirror. We're all mirror reflections, yes, but when your soul is split with somebody, it is the purest mirror reflection of yourself. And if they are behaving in a way that you are not yet, triggering. And if you are seeing darkness and shadow within them that you haven't looked at within yourself, triggering, right? So we get that. We get the journey. And we understand that part of the beginnings of this journey is seeking to find the answers. But when we come closer to peace, when we come into inner union, the union is a reclamation. It's a, what's the word I'm looking for here? Oh my God, this is so silly how words just leave when you're channeling. I'm gonna let it go. We're coming back into our deepest remembrance of self. And when we come to that place and we remember, we lose the desire to seek. We stop seeking. And typically your guides, your higher self will work with you in layers on this, right? So that's what I'm kind of saying about the revisiting energy that I'm noticing right now is we're more resourced than we've ever been. We're stronger than we've ever been. So we have potential to go in and look at things that maybe let's say we got 50% of the embodiment. And now we're able to go in and get the rest, the next 50%. We're able to get the whole thing, right? So the seeking energy could be like, let's say you really achieved the non-seeking when it comes to relationships, right? So you love your own company, you love being by yourself, you just enjoy it. And you really realize one day, and this journey will definitely do that for you, where you're just like, oh my God, like, I'm great. Like, I'm good no matter what. Like, I'm chilling. Like, I fucking love myself. And I keep telling myself to stop dropping F-bombs on YouTube, but I can't help it. But you just feel really resourced and you're like, oh my God, I'm not seeking. You don't feel the need to validate yourself with someone else. And I'm talking platonic and romantic, by the way. You don't feel the need to eliminate your boundaries for somebody else or to lie to somebody to make them feel better, or to be dishonest with yourself or someone else based on your fear of what the other person will do and like the validation. And you just stop all that. It just kind of ceases to exist. And then you realize from that place, you will naturally start to attract the right people that you don't have to do any of those games with. You don't have to be any of that. It just naturally evolves and flows. And so let's say you've gotten really good at this in relationship, because that's a big thing that this twin flame journey teaches. But then let's say you're still finding yourself seeking when it comes to money, for example, or your purpose. So this is kind of showing you, if you've been able to master it here, then there's no reason you can't master it in this part of your life. And typically you're going to work on one at a time, right? And for most of us, we can kind of start to see where we've embodied it and where now we're seeing, oh my God, there's so much deeper I can go here. The physical body comes to mind. A lot of us have been taught to, self-hatred, just straight up self-hatred of the physical body. Resistance, pushing, controlling, dominating, belittling, you name it. And so when you realize you've stopped seeking when it comes to, let's say, money, let's say you've mastered that and you trust that you will always be provided for, and you start to see it. You start to see the fruits of your labor and you're like, oh yeah. And you also stop seeking and reaching for more than you need, right? Because it's like, if you know you're always going to have what you need, and right now you don't need to drop $20,000 on, I don't know, a surgery or something, then why do you need $20,000 to just sit there and collect dust? Right? I think people are always trying to plan for the future. And so with things like that, whatever. So let's say you've mastered that. And now you're working on it more with your physical body. And maybe the physical body is one of those ones where it's harder for you. I'm using examples here. And it's harder for you. And you keep going into like pretending not to know. And you keep seeking. And you're like, okay, I'm going to work with a coach on this. Okay, I'm going to go work with somebody. Okay, I'm going to do this. Okay. And you don't maybe in the beginning see the connection between what you've mastered over here and what you're now currently working on. And this is why spiritual teachers and spiritual beliefs and truths will say to you, I'm going to rephrase that. Spiritual truths will say, you can have it all right now as co-creator. You can decide right now that you have everything you want and everything you need, and it's just here and it's done. And the suffering is done and the indecision is gone and all of it is gone. So whatever it is that you deeply desire and you deeply want, you could have it right now. And people hear that sometimes and it doesn't empower them. It actually frustrates them. But the reason is because the second that you stop pretending not to know, the second that you reclaim your remembering and your reunion with self, that is when it's here, right? And so it is a perspective shift. Hell yeah, it's a perspective shift. It's 100% about your perspective. And that's where the mind comes in as a beautiful tool. The mind is either running you or you are running it, right? You definitely, definitely want to be in the seat of your power when it comes to your mind, because your mind will take on beliefs and old outdated things and, think it's accurate and think it's true. And you let it run wild and rampant. And the mind is always going to pretend not to know, right? Sometimes the mind will pretend to be a know-it-all. But it's always going to be in that, well, what's the easy choice? What's the thing that makes sense, right? So I'm just seeing if they feel like that's... So no, we're not done. I know I thought I said this was going to be short, but there's more. Knowingness is undeniable. It's divine truth. And as there is no time, it's happening right now. It's happening all at once. So every single thing that you know becomes, because you already know, right? So when you are on this journey and you start to question and you start to doubt what you thought you knew deep down in your core, in your bones, you are pretending not to know, and all you're doing is creating stagnancy and prolonging the journey of getting to the destination that you yourself said, I want to get here. So for example, many of you feel like you want to be in physical reunion with this person. Okay. And I'm using this as an example. But so you've had the knowing, you've experienced it at times, but maybe it feels fleeting, because then the logic, the mind comes on, and it makes sense. And the logic is going to make sense, right? The mind is going to make sense. So it's like, well, you haven't heard from this person in a long time, so they're probably over it. They probably moved on. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, why would they not have done that? Why would they still be thinking about you, right? So then your mind's like, okay, well, you know what? But your mind is in conflict because your soul is trying to get you to evolve to the knowing, back to the knowing. And so you're in conflict and you're like, I need help. I'm going to get help, right? And some of us, depending on our disposition, may go seek help from another, but some of us will go into this perfection mode, right? Where we're like, okay, well, I'm going to make myself worthy enough and perfect enough for the potential correct timing of this to just fall into my lap and it to just all come together, and the universe will not have any choice but to deliver this to me. And okay, so that's kind of like, that's almost like inserting your will and micromanaging God and the universe, right? And then there's others who then kind of give their power away and go, well, I need to go hire somebody, or I need to talk to a friend, or I need to talk to another person, like someone that knows what I'm going through, and I need to get them to confirm this for me, right? I need to get somebody to tell me, give me the answers that I'm seeking. And you see how both are seeking, right? One is seeking to be better, thinking that if I'm better, either I won't want this person anymore, or maybe this person will just show up and I won't have to do any of the like vulnerable things to move closer towards this person. I can just have it fall into my lap, right? Or you just kind of give your power away and you confuse yourself in the process. And by the way, you may not even hire somebody. Maybe you just like obsessively pull cards, or obsessively, whatever your form of talking to God is, you just go into my guides have done this with me so many times where they just start to mess with me, right? With the message when I'm in that seat, when I've been in that seeking energy, and I'm like, give me the answer. Like, what is going on here? And I'm just like so mad. And they just start messing with me. They'll give me crazy answers. They'll give me maybe like whatever my deepest fear is that I'm trying to confirm isn't true. They'll be like, yep, that's true. Yep, that's happening. Or they'll go the opposite and they'll be like, like whatever you really want to happen. They're like, yeah. And then like the next day it's not there. And then I'm like, you lied to me. And they're like, no, girlfriend, you lied to yourself when you pretended not to know. Right? Okay. I think we've adequately explained seeking versus knowing. So then how does this help you? How does this support you? This is something that you have to repeat with yourself over and over and over again. You have to keep this perspective alive with yourself, because the mind very easily, it's kind of like a child. No, I don't really like that example. Discount that example. But okay, so what I was gonna say, it's kind of like a child that just wants to be free and never thinks about the street being dangerous and is just free and roaming into the street. But if you don't tell the child or try and give the child boundaries and barriers, which you have to do with your brain, boundaries and barriers, hey brain, like, thanks so much for the input. Don't really need your help here. My heart is the truth. Duh. I'm talking about this. My heart is leading me. Got it? Okay, cool. Brain, I'll tell you when I need you, right? And I'll need you when it comes to discernment. I'll need you when it comes to present moment decision making, right? I'll need you then. Okay. So when we can rely on our knowing, and to be honest with you, this is what I want to say about the twin flame journey. I don't think you'd be here watching this video if you didn't have a knowing, right? You certainly wouldn't have like stuck around with me for a while. And I'm sure there's some other like teachers and people out there that maybe you've stuck with for a long time. And maybe in the process of your seeking and going back and forth between seeking and knowing, maybe you've followed other people that you had to like stop following because their perspective, which is not wrong, but their perspective and version of how they saw things was very much like either, yeah, this person is a POS, this person's the worst, like they're abusive, get away from them, let it go. Or they go into all these like melodramas about the twin flame journey. It's supposed to be hard and you know, it's, you're only supposed to come together in the 5D, and the physical is just, you know, don't even think about the physical, whatever. There's so many different beliefs out there that are just trying to excuse away the fact that you are, it's just disempowerment. It's just forgetting that you are co-creator, that you are deciding as you live, as you move right now in the here and now. You either are coming from a place of sovereignty and knowing, or you're coming from a place of confusion, doubt, fear, guilt, shame, and seeking. Seeking to rid yourself of this, seeking to purify yourself, seeking to be better, seeking to be this amazing, powerful, spiritual person who's just like, everything I touch is like, I'm blessing the world as I walk by it. That doesn't exist. That's not real. Like, so let yourself off the hook if you're doing that. I think we all do that to some extent at points on the journey, but please, please, please let yourself off the hook, because that is not what your higher self is trying to get you to do. Your higher self is trying to get you to remember. And when you remember, you're guided to take steps from a place of truth that are not easy, right? They're not the thing that always makes sense. They're the thing that everything inside of you could be screaming and shouting, this is unsafe, this is unsafe, this is scary, this is rejection, we're putting ourselves out there, we're gonna get hurt, they're gonna eat us alive, this is gonna be over, oh my God, whatever it is. But remember, your fear screams and shouts, your ego screams and shouts, and your intuition goes, oh, but I already know this. I know how this turns out, because it's already happened, because time doesn't exist. So everything's all at once. So I've already come into union. I'm already in reunion. I'm already in reconciliation. There was the word I was looking for earlier. I knew that was going to happen. Love when that happens. The reconciliation. I've already had reconciliation with myself. I've already reclaimed this power within me. I'm already this co-creator. I am powerful, and I decide, right? And yeah, it's a little complicated when you're working with another person. Yes, I will 100% give you that. But what makes it even more complicated and what creates more stagnancy is the wishy-washy and the back and forth between knowing and seeking, knowing and seeking, knowing and seeking. And part of that is part of the journey. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's like how a diamond's made, right? Refining. So part of it is definitely the journey, but the thing is like, you get to decide how long you're on that journey. You get to decide how long you need that process. And you could have literally been in, okay, I'm just going to use this as an example in time and space, because I know this is how our brains work. So let's say you meet your person, you have the honeymoon phase, and then you have the triggering, shadowy, terrified phase, and then you separate. You could be separated for an hour. and get all the healing, all the work, all the benefits you needed from that separation that your higher selves orchestrated, you could get it all done in 1 hour if you just decided and you reclaimed and you reconciled and you remembered. It's that simple. Does it happen that way very often? No, because we have a lot of conditioning and we have a lot of baggage and we have a lot of what some might call karma, density in our bodies, right? It's not punishment. It's not good or bad. It's the process of evolution that we're here to clean ourselves of that. We're here to strip ourselves of that. I mean, clean almost implies that it's dirty. It's not dirty. It's just part of the process of remembering. Okay, so move into your knowing. And here's one thing I want to say too. If you don't feel your knowing, honor that. Be okay with not being in knowing. Because the thing is when you honor exactly where you are in truth and you don't gaslight yourself, you don't lie to yourself, but you tell yourself the truth where you're just like, I don't have the feeling of knowing right now. The chances are you're going to move through that energy a lot quicker than somebody that doesn't have knowing, but is like, oh no, I have knowing. You can't trick yourself and you can't trick God, right? You just can't. I think, can you imagine the world we would live in if you could? Oh God, I don't want to know what that would look like. So you can't. Oh my God, for a second I thought my mic wasn't on. I was like, oh dear God, no. Yeah, you can't trick yourself. So be honest with yourself. I mean, I guess you can trick yourself for a time, but then it all comes crashing and it's a lot worse than if you had just told the truth the whole time, even when it was really hard. But again, that's the process that we're in. That's what we're moving back to. That's what we're reclaiming. And really, if we're really going to break it down, what we're reclaiming is the feminine impulse, the feminine aspects of ourselves. And not the distorted feminine, not the fearful feminine that's seeking validation and needing protection and needing all these things. It's the feminine who knows that she has all of those things, that he or she has all those things within them, remembers that, and from that can physically manifest in the physical world the external expression of that, right? If the soul desires. If the soul doesn't, then the soul doesn't need it. But if the soul desires it, of course you're going to get whatever you want. You're going to get whatever you want. You're meant to get whatever you want. What do you want? The trick is most of us don't know what we want because we're not in truth. So we think like what I just saw is like a guy being like, I want like 3 wives. You don't though. You really don't. And you know you don't. Maybe you haven't remembered yet, but you think you do. There's probably, I was going to say there's probably very few people on the planet, but that's not true because there's certain souls that are here to live and experience this and to understand what this is like. But I would almost guarantee somebody that has 3 wives in one life probably doesn't want to come in and do that again. Just saying. I could be wrong on that. I'm open to being wrong on that. But we think we want these things, but they're ego, material desires that somebody implanted in us. Maybe not somebody, but something, the collective, implanted in us. Men were taught that relationships weigh you down and commitment is like, it's staggering and it's like stifling. And it's like, oh, let me out of here. And it's like, oh, stop loving me so much. It's so annoying. And they're taught, just like be with someone for appearances and money and like get the kids and the picket fence and all this stuff. But then you go do your thing, bro. Like go cheat, do whatever you want to do, go to the strip club, watch the porn, do all the things, right? That's a distorted masculine who has created this paradigm. It's a distorted masculine who is, for lack of a better way of saying it, pretty dumb, right? They've lost their feminine impulse. And so they're actually self-harming and hurting themselves over and over and over again. And feminines do it as well, just in a different way, where they lie to themselves about how they feel about somebody, right? They try and convince themselves that they need this person and they feel like they can't fully show up and be themselves. And so they have to overgive, because if they didn't, they feel like they might be alone and they might lose everything. And then it's not safe to be alone in the world as a female, right? That's something I've been confronting personally for myself. And I'm going to explore that more actually on the Patreon. So if you're interested in that, that's actually something that I'm very guided to talk about, and like my own personal journey within that. But that's what we're here to heal. Truly, we're healing separation. We're healing separation. Every single one of us, twin flame, no twin flame, it doesn't matter. We're healing separation and seeking create separation, right? Because it's the idea, I have to leave the gift. I have to leave the love. I have to leave the family. I have to leave. I have to go travel. I have to go far and wide. I have to search. I have to go high and low. I have to go on this hero's journey, blah, blah, blah. I have to seek, 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 seek. And then you realize that you were there all along. You were carrying and holding within you what you were searching for all along. But it's in the journey that you discover that. Hence the journeys we've been on. So it's really beautiful. It's really divine. There's nothing wrong happening. There's no mistake happening. That's the other thing. I would be really careful about tuning into twin flame teachers that talk about like there's a mistake and like the divine is angry at one of the counterparts because they went back on their word, or they that they were supposed to do something and they didn't do it, because that just kind of that puts you automatically into the perspective and the paradigm of like a angry God, right? Where you can mess up and you can do wrong. And you must be a good little boy or a little girl and like fix that. And you must, no. You don't want to be in that. You don't want to be in that place. I want to live in a world that's unconditionally forgiving, unconditionally loving. Home is always home. There's always a home to go back to. It's always there. It's within you. And you can create it with another. And that other, if it's your true divine path, if it's your true divine purpose and kind of blessed by your higher selves, kind of a gift from the divine, if you will, which twin flames are, it never goes away. It never goes anywhere. You are never separate. You can never be separated, right? Okay, I think we've gotten to the root of that. Let me just double check. Yeah, I think that's it. And now I'm excited to go explore this idea of safety in the world. And this affects men and women, by the way. But I think our culture has really been, the banishment of the matriarchy, which, believe it or not, I know our history books don't talk about it, but we came from a matriarchy, and the men started to get resentful and they started to rebel, and here we are. And I'm not saying it's right, wrong, good, bad. I'm saying union. There is no separation. We're different, but we're not different. Do you know what I mean? We're different, but we're not different. That's actually, anyways, I was about to get on another topic. I'm sending you all a lot of love. Thank you so much for being here. I have a reading that's going to be coming out to the Patreon probably today, actually. We'll see. Otherwise, stay tuned for probably some tarot readings and extendeds coming out when guided. We're going to have some live community events happening most likely next month. And that's all for now. Thank you for being here. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. That helps so much. The algorithm, it helps a lot. Thanks for commenting. I do my best to get back to everybody. Lots of love. Oh, my books are open. So if you're interested in diving deeper on all of this is what we do in a session. We don't sit there and talk about your twin flame. If that is organically what's aligned, then that may come up, but we really do this work. That's what we do. We do the remembering. I simply support you in remembering. All right. Lots of love.